Question number 4, last part number 6. Part number 6 is 1 by 2 plus 3 iota into 1 minus iota. Here we are to solve this question and write it into a simplest form, that is standard form of a complex number. First of all, we simplify its denominator. We multiply 2 with 1 minus iota plus 3 iota with 1 minus iota. After multiplication, we get 1 by 2 minus 2 iota plus 3 iota minus 3 iota square. After more simplification, we have 2 plus iota minus 3. What is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Now, more simplification. After more simplification, we get 1 plus iota plus 3. We add real part with the real part. We have 1 by 5 plus iota. Now we see that the complex number written in denominator is in standard form. Now after multiplying with conjugate of this number and dividing with conjugate of this number, we rationalize the number. 1 is multiply 5 minus iota gives 5 minus iota, and in denominator we write formula. Which formula here we write? What is a plus b and a minus b? The formula is a square minus b square. After more simplification, we get 5 minus iota. Our 25 minus what is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. 5 minus iota divided by 25 plus 1. After more simplification, we get 5 minus iota divided by 26. Now we write it as 5 over 26 minus iota divided by 26, which is our required answer, that is the complex number written in standard form. It's clear to everyone?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
सर कल आपने वो जो लेक्चर में क्वेश्चन नंबर
जी
1
जी,
कराया
वो
था
हो
पार्ट
जाएगा,
4
वो
का।
हो जाएगा, वो आपको सेंड कर देंगे। आज के लेक्चर अभी जो क्वेश्चन आपको करवाया, ये क्लियर है या नहीं?
सर ये क्लियर है, लेकिन बस मैंने कहना था उसका आंसर
सर
मैच
एक और समझा दी।
ओके ओके,
सर
वो
एक
मैं
और बार
आपको
समझा दे।
जी जी, वो मैं आपको सेंड
सर
कर
ये
दूंगा।
सेंड नहीं
ये
सर,
वाला
एक
एक
दफा
और बार
कर दें
समझा
तो अच्छी
दीजिए।
बात है सर।
ओके
एक दफा यहाँ
ओके,
पे क्वेश्चन 1 कर लें प्लीज।
क्वेश्चन
सर
नंबर 1, क्वेश्चन
क्वेश्चन
नंबर
1
4
नहीं,
पार्ट
पार्ट
नंबर
1,
1।
पार्ट 1, क्वेश्चन
ओके
4
ओके,
पार्ट 1।
तेरी वाली होगी। The question is 1 by 2 plus 3 iota in multiple 1 minus iota. First of all, we simplify this number. First of all, we simplify this number. We multiply these two complex number. First of all, we multiply 2 with 1 minus iota and 3 iota with 1 minus iota. After multiplication 2 with 1, we get 2. Then again 2 with minus iota, it becomes minus 2 iota. 3 iota with 1, it becomes 3 iota, and 3 iota with minus iota, it becomes minus 3 iota square. Now after more simplification, we see that 2, what is minus 2 iota and 3 iota, we get only 1 iota, that is positive. And what is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative iota, negative 1. Now we multiply negative 3 with negative 1, it becomes positive 3. Now what is positive 2 and positive 3? If we add positive 2 with positive 3, it becomes positive 5, and we write this iota here. After rationalization, this process is called a rationalization process. This process is called a rationalization process. After rationalizing with conjugate of a complex number 5 minus iota, we multiply it with 5 minus iota and dividing it with by 5 minus iota. Now we see that when we multiply 1 with 5 minus iota, we get 5 minus iota, and in denominator we see that there is a formula. Which formula is a plus b, a minus b? We get a square minus b square. Here a square which is 5 square and iota square which is b square which is iota square. 5 square becomes 25. What is value of iota square? Iota square is equal to negative 1. After multiplying negative with negative 1 we get positive 1. 25 plus 1 becomes 26. After dividing 26 with both the numbers we get the standard form of a complex number. Now we solve the part number 1 of question number 4. Question number 4, part number 1. Question number 4, part number 1 is 2 over 1 plus iota. In question number 4, we see that we have 1 plus iota in denominator form. We rationalize it by 1 minus iota. That is, we multiply and divide it by 1 minus iota by its conjugate. Now, negative 2 into 1 negative iota, our 1 square minus iota square. Now we know that what is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Instead of iota square, we write negative 1. And what is the square of 1? Square of 1 is positive 1, negative 1. Now we have negative 2 into 1 minus iota, our 1 plus 1. We have negative 2, 1 minus iota, 1 plus 1 becomes 2. After cancellation, 2 with 2, we get negative 1 into 1 minus iota. This is our required answer. But if you multiply negative 1 with 1 and negative 1 with negative iota, you get negative 1 plus iota. This is our required answer. Either you write this answer, it's either you write negative 1 into negative 1 minus iota, either you write negative 1 plus iota. Both answers are correct. Now we move on the next question. The next question is question number 5. In question number 5, we have calculate A part is Z conjugate, B part is Z plus Z conjugate, C part is Z minus Z conjugate, and the last one part, that is D, is Z into Z conjugate for each of the following. First question is Z is equal to negative iota. We are here to solve A part. A part is Z conjugate, B part is Z plus Z conjugate, C part is Z minus conjugate, and the last one part is Z into Z conjugate. We are to solve for Z is equal to minus iota, these four parts. Okay. Now, first part is we are to calculate here Z conjugate. The first part, that is A part, is we are to calculate Z conjugate. Okay. As Z is equal to negative iota. After taking conjugate on both sides, Z conjugate, negative iota conjugate. What we do in conjugate, we can change the sign of iota. What is the sign of iota here? Here sign of iota is negative. We can change it into positive iota, which is our answer of the first part, that is Z conjugate. What is the second part? Second part is Z plus Z conjugate. We have to calculate Z plus Z conjugate. As Z is equal to negative iota, and what is the value of z conjugate? The value of z conjugate is positive iota. The value of z conjugate is positive iota. Now we are to calculate z plus z conjugate. What is value of z? The value of z is negative iota. What is the value of z conjugate? The value of z conjugate is positive iota. After cancelling iota with negative iota, we get 0. That is a complex number which is null. That is 0 complex number, which is our required answer. That is z plus z conjugate is equal to 0. Now in C part, we are to calculate z minus z conjugate. Here we are to calculate z minus z conjugate. Again, as z is equal to negative iota and z conjugate is equal to positive iota. Here we are to calculate z negative z conjugate. What is z? Z is negative iota, negative. What is z conjugate? Z conjugate is positive iota. Now negative iota becomes negative 2 iota. Z minus z conjugate becomes negative 2 iota, which is our required answer. Now at last, part number D, we have to find z into z conjugate. What is the value of z? The value of z is iota. What is the value of z conjugate? The value of z conjugate is positive iota. The value of z conjugate is positive iota. The value of z is negative iota. Now z into z conjugate means negative iota multiplied by positive iota. Negative and positive become negative, and iota multiplied by iota becomes iota square. What is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Now negative 1 into negative becomes positive 1, which is our required answer. If there is any problem, please raise your hand. Is there any problem in question number 5, part
सर वो
number 1?
सर वो लास्ट वाली स्लाइड दोबारा दिखा दे, डी जो आपने कराया पार्ट।
Last one. Okay, okay, okay. In last part, D part, Z into Z conjugate, we are to find the value of Z into Z conjugate. Here the value of Z is negative iota and the value of Z conjugate is positive iota. We are to multiply Z by Z conjugate. Here we are to multiply Z by Z conjugate. Here we see that the value of Z is negative iota and the value of Z conjugate is positive iota. We multiply these two, as we know that when negative is multiplied with positive, it becomes negative, and iota is multiplied with iota, it becomes iota square. What is the value of iota square? As we know that iota square is equal to negative 1. We replace negative 1 instead of iota square. We get negative 1 into negative, which becomes positive 1, which is our required answer. Now we move on the next part. The next part is question number 5, part number 2. Part number 2 is z is equal to 2 plus iota. It's also simple part. Here we solve first part, A part. We are to solve for z conjugate, as z is equal to, that is given is z is equal to 2 plus iota. What we do in conjugate? We take conjugate on both sides. After taking conjugate on both sides, we know that in conjugate we change only sign of value of iota. The sign of value of iota is positive, therefore we change it into negative, which is our required answer. That is, we are to find here z conjugate. Now into second part. Now into second part B, we are to calculate the value z plus z conjugate. We are to calculate the value z plus z conjugate, as z is equal to 2 plus iota and z conjugate is equal to 2 minus iota. Now Z plus Z conjugate becomes Z is 2 plus iota plus Z conjugate is 2 minus iota. After open the brackets, Z is equal to Z plus Z conjugate is equal to 2 plus iota, 2 minus iota. Then we cancel iota with positive iota with negative iota, get only 4. That is 2 plus 2 becomes 4, which is our required answer. Now in part C we see that we are to find the value of Z minus Z conjugate. Here we are to find the value of Z minus Z conjugate. As again, what is Z? Z is 2 plus iota, and what is Z conjugate? Z conjugate is 2 minus iota. Now we are to find Z minus Z conjugate. Instead of Z we write 2 plus iota. Instead of Z conjugate we write 2 minus iota. Now simplify it. We get 2 plus iota. After multiplying negative with 2 we get negative 2, and negative with negative iota we get positive iota. Here we see that positive 2 is cancelled with negative 2. We get iota plus iota is 2 iota, which is our required answer. And last part is, that is D part. We are to find Z into Z conjugate. Dot means here multiplication. As again, what is Z? Z is 2 plus iota, and what is Z conjugate? Z conjugate is 2 minus iota. We are to multiply Z into Z conjugate. We are to multiply Z into Z conjugate. Z into Z conjugate. Z into Z conjugate. What is the value of Z? Value of Z is 2 plus iota. What is the value of Z conjugate? 2 minus iota. Here we use the formula. What is the formula? Formula is A plus B and A minus B. A plus B, A minus B is equal to A square minus B square. Here we see that what is A? A is 2. What is B? B is plus iota. A is 2 and B is iota. We multiply it as A square, that is 2 square, and B square, that is iota square. After simplifying, 2 square becomes 4. What is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Negative into negative 1 becomes positive 1. Positive 1 plus 4 becomes 5, which is our required answer of fourth part. Is there any problem in question number 2, 5 part number 2? Is there any problem?
No, sir.
Okay. Now we move on to the next question. The next question number 5, part number 4. Part number 3, do yourself. Part number 4, here we solve part number 4. Question number 5, part number 4. Part number 4 and part number 3 are same. Here we have Z is equal to 4 negative 3 iota divided by 2 plus 4 iota. We are to find the fourth parts, that is Z conjugate, Z plus Z conjugate, Z minus Z conjugate, Z into Z conjugate. First of all, we simplify this Z into its standard form or simplest form. First of all, we simplify it in standard form. How we simplify it in standard form? We multiply it by the conjugate of denominator. What is the conjugate of denominator? The conjugate of denominator is 2 minus 4 iota. 2 minus 4 iota. This is the denominator, that is 2 plus 4 iota. We change the sign. 2 plus 4 iota, instead of 2 plus 4 iota we multiply it by 2 minus 4 iota. and dividing it by 2 minus 4 iota. This process is called a rationalization process. Now simplify it. Here we multiply this 4 with 2 and again this 4 with 4 iota. Similarly, negative 3 iota with 2 and negative 3 iota with negative 4 iota. What we get? 4 multiply 2, negative 4 into 4 iota, negative 3 iota multiply by 2 with negative 3 iota multiply with negative 4 iota. And in denominator we apply the formula a square minus b square. After simplification we get 8, negative 16 iota, negative 6 iota, negative and negative become positive, 3 4 times becomes 12, iota into iota becomes iota square. Now we have 4 negative. What is the square of 4? The square of 4 is 16 and square of iota is iota square. After more simplification we get 8, negative 16 and negative 6 becomes negative 22 iota. And what is the value of iota square? The value of iota square is negative 1. Here again the value of iota square is negative 1. Now simplify it. After simplification we get 8, negative 22 iota, negative 12 divided by 4 plus 16 because negative and negative become positive. Now here we see that positive 8 and negative 12 becomes negative 4, negative 22 iota, and in the next part 4 plus 16 becomes 20. Now dividing 20 by both the numbers, minus 4 by 20 and 22 by 20 iota. Cancellation, we see that we cancel it with 2, 4, 4 1 times, 4 5 times. Here also 2 11 times 22, 2 10 times 20. We get z is equal to negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota. It's a simplified form of z. Now we find the value. First we calculate z conjugate. The first part is we are to calculate z conjugate. What is z conjugate? Z conjugate is equal to negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota conjugate. What we do in conjugate? We can change the sign of the value of iota. The sign of the value of iota is negative. We change it into positive, which is our first required answer. Is there any problem in the first part? Please raise. Yes, Zaki. Muhammad Zaki Irfan. Muhammad Zaki Irfan.
सर पॉजिटिव 1/5 नहीं होगा?
Positive? No. Positive 1
5
over
नहीं
5
होगा?
नहीं है क्योंकि negative 4 था. That's why after cancellation negative sign remains रहेगा. Okay.
ओके सर.
Now we move on the next part. Here you see that here we have positive 8 and negative 12. Larger value contain the sign of negative. That's why we have negative 4. After cancellation negative 4 with 20 we get negative 1 by 5. Okay. After taking conjugate we get the required. Now in B part we are to calculate the value of z plus z conjugate, as z is equal to negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota, and the second one z conjugate is equal to negative 1 by 5, positive 11 by 10 iota. Now Here we are to calculate z plus z conjugate. What is z? Z is negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota. And what is z conjugate? Negative 1 by 5, positive 11 by 10 iota. Now, after open the brackets, we get negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota. Positive and negative become negative. Negative 1 by 5, positive 11 by 10 iota. Here we see that negative 11 by 10 and positive 11 by 10 iota cancel with each other, and we get negative 1 by 5, negative 1 by 5. Now after more simplification, that is we take LCM here, negative 1 and negative 1, what we get? Negative 2 by 5, which is our required answer. Similarly, we see for the third part is z negative z conjugate. Here we are to calculate z minus z conjugate, as z is negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota, and z conjugate is negative 1 by 5, positive 11 by 10 iota. Now we calculate z negative z conjugate. What is the value of z? The value of z is negative 1 by 5, negative 10, 11 by 10 iota, with negative 1 by 5, positive 11 by 10 iota. Now multiplying, now simplify the brackets. Negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota. Here negative and negative become positive. This negative and this negative becomes positive. Positive 1 by 5, and similarly negative and positive becomes negative 11 by 10 iota. Now here we see that negative 1 by 5 and positive 1 by 5 cancel with each other. We get negative 11 by 10 iota, negative 11 by 10 iota. After taking LCM 10, we have negative 11 iota, negative 11 iota. Now negative 11 iota becomes negative 22 iota divided by 10. After more simplification, we cut it on table 2, we get negative 11 iota divided by 5, which is our required answer of the third part. Now the last part is, that is D part, which is z into z conjugate. Here we are to find the value of z into z conjugate. Again, as we know that z is equal to negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota, and what is z conjugate? Z conjugate is negative 1 by 5, negative positive 11 by 10 iota. Now write z into z conjugate. What is z? Negative 1 by 5, negative 11 by 10 iota. What is z conjugate? Negative 1 by 5, positive 11 by 10 iota. Here again we see that it becomes a formula, that is a, this we consider a, minus b, and again a plus b. Here we consider it's a, it's b, it's again a, it's b. Here is a negative sign, here is a positive sign. Now we calculate it as, we write the formula a square negative b square. Clear? Now what is the square of 1? It becomes positive 1. What is the square of 5? It becomes 25, because square of negative becomes positive. What is the square of 11? Its square is 121. What is the square of 10? Its square is 100. And what is the square of iota? Its square is iota square. As we know that iota square is equal to negative 1, therefore we replace negative 1 instead of iota. Now multiplying negative with negative 1, we get positive 1 by 100. How we take the LCM? First of all, we convert the denominator into same value. How we convert it into same value? We multiply it by 4 and dividing it by 4. It becomes same in denominator, which is 100. 4 over 100 and 121 divided by 100. LCM is same. We write LCM one time. Now we have 4 plus 121. When we add 4 with 121, it becomes 125 over 100. After cancelling it with the table of 25, 25 4 times 100, 25 5 times 100. We get the required answer, which is 5 by 4, which is our required answer. Is there any problem? Please raise your hand. Muhammad Abdullah. Muhammad
सर के
Abdullah.
ऊपर से थोड़ा समझ नहीं आया सर.
Which part?
सर
Part number 4?
ये यस
D part?
डी पार्ट.
Okay. Here we have to multiply z with z conjugate. Here you see that we are to multiply z with z conjugate. As we know that z is equal to 1 over 5 negative 11 over 10 iota. And what is the conjugate of z? The conjugate of z is negative 1 over 5 plus 11 over 10 iota. Here we only replace the value of z and z conjugate. What is the value of z? The value of z is negative 1 over 5, negative 11 over 10 iota. And what is the value of z conjugate? Z conjugate value is negative 1 over 5 and positive 11 by 10 iota. Now here we see that it becomes a formula. Which formula is the formula? Here we write it becomes a minus b, a plus b. What is a minus b and a plus b? A minus b and a plus b is a square minus b square. Here we write as the values of a and b. This value is a and this value is b. This value is again a and this value is again b. We see that here we have a, the sign is negative with b, then again a, the sign is positive with b. We write here a square minus b square by this formula. Okay. Now we take the square of the value of negative 1 by 5, we get 125, 1 over 25, and again we take the square of 11 by 10 iota, we get, what is the square of 11? The square of 11 is 121. What is the square of 10? Square of 10 is 100. What is the square of iota? Square of iota is iota square. Now we replace, instead of iota square, we replace minus 1. Here we replace minus 1 instead of iota square. This negative and this negative become positive. Here you see that this negative and negative become positive. Now after taking LCM, here we are to change the denominator value of the first denominator value of the first one. We multiply 1 by 4 and dividing 1 by 4, because when we multiply 4 with 25, it becomes 100. It becomes 100. Denominator becomes same. Now we write denominator one time and we write 4 121. When we add 4 with 121, we get 125 over 100. After cancellation, 125 by 100 by 25 table, as we know that 25 multiplied by 4 becomes 100. Therefore after cancellation on the table of 25, we get 4 and 5, which is our required answer, that is 4 over 5. Okay, is there any problem? Raise your hand. Now we move on the next question, question number 6. Okay, we have only 2 minutes. Arshan Hashmi. Arshan Hashmi. Okay,
सर क्वेश्चन
the
6
time
कल
of the
करेंगे सर.
yes, yes.
सर क्वेश्चन 6 कल करेंगे.
Yes, question number 6 and question number 7 very very important. Exam point of
ओके
view,
सर.
inshallah.
सर सर क्वेश्चन 5 से
कंप्लीट करेंगे
रिलेटेड
बिकॉज
सर
ये थोड़ी थोड़ी
एक सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ
दैट्स व्हाई आज
सर कैन आई आस्क वन क्वेश्चन सर
सर की
जी जी
आवाज
पूछिए
नहीं आ रही।
सर
यस स्पीक
सर की आवाज
स्पीक
बहुत कट रही है।
नेट इश्यू होगा सर
ओके
का।
नाउ वी डिस्कस वॉइस इज क्लियर
यस सर।
यस सर।
सर जी बात सुने
देंगे ठीक हो क्या क्वेश्चन नंबर 6 और क्वेश्चन नंबर 7 ठीक है because the lecture time is